Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the last episode of season 2 of Help Talk. And we promised, like Phil and I, this is what we do, right? We promised we would finish strong. And we've got a very strong person over here, Lorraine Connell, a couple of masters behind her name, a
Yes.
lot of years in education. And she's going to talk to us today about leadership because you're never too old or you're never too young to get started. Lorraine, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here today.
So, give us, like, for those folks that don't know you,
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about what you're really good at, what you've learned along the way here, because you've been in education for
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah. So, teaching for 20 years, teaching chemistry. And what I found is that I'm really good at getting teenagers to do hard things. And so I
That's a
stepped away.
gift.
It is.
That's more
It
than a
really
talent. That's a
is.
gift.
And I stepped away from chemistry, but I replaced the hard with leadership. And what I have found, as you asked, is that we're all afraid of making mistakes. We're all afraid of putting ourselves out there. We're all afraid of what other people are going to think. And we don't believe that we're worthy. And so what what has really come to me is that starts when you're young. It starts as a teenager, it starts in middle school, and it perpetuates through your life. And so the work that I do is I try and get them before they turn 16, and I really empower them to know that mistakes are really how we learn. And mistakes are like the most important piece of leadership. So that's what I've learned.
And Phil, you've learned a lot dealing with students and parents and everybody kind of transitioning from that high school stage to get ready for adulthood, be it going into college or into something vocational or directly into the workforce or entrepreneurship. What would you say is what you've seen around leadership and the need for it?
Lorraine is hitting it on the head. I mean, there's so much opportunity for students to get prepared for leadership, get the knowledge of leadership, and it's nothing that is coming on as a matter of fact. I mean, if they're not learning and or doing, most of the students are introverted, so they're not getting out there. And in the world of public education and private education, they're assembled in 25, 30 people in a classroom. There's not many opportunities except for participating in that academic discussion, which is generally new topics and new conversation. So who's the leader? The leader is the teacher. And so there's plenty of opportunities for them to get educated, prepared, and Lorraine is hitting an important skill that is really needed, and education as well, to understand the role of leadership and recognizing the expectations and the greatness of what leaders can be, and how they can be a leader too. So Lorraine is hitting a very specific skill set that is really important for all students to have an opportunity to get a leg up and really have an advantage. And guess what, folks? Colleges are looking for strong leadership, not just leaders, strong
Mhm.
leaders.
Yeah, for
Go
sure.
ahead, Lorraine.
Well, and when you and I went to college, it was all about our grades. It was all about, some of the extracurricular, but really what it's about is about who you are as a person. And so what I do is I help you identify areas in which you are may already be leading, and then we also identify where are there areas where you can step into leadership that don't require you to have a title, that doesn't require you to be perfect, or and develop the skills along the way. And so I'm sort of coming at this from the back door, right? There is students who get leadership titles, but there is no real training for leadership. And that's what I do. So I'll work with kids who are in positions of leadership and I'll help them hone in those skills. And then I will take the kids who are like, I'm not a leader, and I will help them identify that, in fact, you are. And here are all the areas in which you're leading. And now let's build that up.
Excellent. And what I like about what you're doing too, and then we'll get into some of the 7 tips that you have for us here, is that the leadership lessons that you're sharing are really applicable across a broad audience, not just little kiddos or
Not at
teenage
all.
kiddos, but they work for adults too. And I think that's important, because I think you need to have that both sides. If you're the one teaching and training and trying to help the youth rise, or if you're the youth who is rising and leaning into your leadership, you also need to recognize the leadership skills and strengths of those who are trying to lift you, right? It's this.
It's yes and.
I love it. All right, we're going to do that. We're going to put that in the chat. Yes and. Woo! So you want to get started, Lorraine? Give us your first tip.
Yeah. So I start with the basic, right? Leadership is about practicing, and there's only one requirement that my leadership program, it requires you in order to be a leader. One requirement. And that is that you make decisions, right? And so we have this belief that decisions are binary. They're either right or they're wrong. But in reality, they're somewhere in the middle. So leadership is about practicing, and leadership is about making decisions and evaluating, did that decision take me towards my goal? Great. Let me do that again. Did it take me away from my goal? What should I do differently? Do you want me to just keep going with my tips, or?
No.
We're taking it all in.
Okay, great.
Yeah, no, and I know we've always got some choppy internet, so I know that's a problem too. But the thing related to that, as far as like make the decisions, I think that's what I've seen just at the level of corporate or even at startups with a lot of founders, that making a decision is really hard. It can be scary. It can be overwhelming. And I think that the fact that you require that straight up as the number one thing that people need to do and evaluate, not just like, deciding for decision's sake, is really important. That's what we need, right? Because that's what leadership's about. You make a lot of decisions. Most are unpopular.
100%. Yes. Well, and that goes back to the like believing that if I don't make the right decision, then it's the wrong one. And that is not the truth, right? There's somewhere in along that spectrum. It's not a binary. And in fact, very often, no decision is right completely or wrong completely.
Excellent.
So let's get into that and keep going on, like on tip number 2. So once you've done the hard, scary thing, which is making a decision and actually evaluating the weight of your decision with potential consequences, what's the next tip we should look at with respect to learning to lead?
Well, I would say that the very next thing that you want to do is to, evaluate that decision. How far did it take you towards your goal? How far away from it did it take your goal? Because it's your goal that is tied to that decision. And often, I'm working with teens, and as parents will say, well, that was a bad decision. Well, it was a bad decision because it impacted me negatively, but was it necessarily a bad decision for my teenager? And so like those are very different answers. And so if we as parents can separate those two things, we may not get stuck in that was a bad decision, you're a bad kid. And that, that's another thing to really recognize, is that bad decisions, bad behaviors do not equal bad kids. And that sometimes we can get caught up in that.
So what's interesting, Lorraine, is that the two components here are not really, they're not leading others, they're leading themselves. And it's about goal setting, and it's about strategies and making decisions. And you are taking that component and helping them get an understanding of that very important principle of goals and strategies and decision making, and evaluate their decision making is an element of preparing them for strong leadership. So well done, Lorraine.
Well, and to be honest, like, let's think of our own leading ourselves as the foundation of leadership, right? And if we can't lead ourselves, make decisions for ourselves, evaluate those decisions, then our foundation for leadership is very shaky. And then trying to lead others above that, it just doesn't work out very successfully for us. So,
No. Well, look, Phil, you're always saying, like with your planning and vision, which is Phil's business, for those of you that don't know, and he helps teenagers figure out what's next after high school. He says, like, be the CEO of your own career, right? We all know CEOs make a lot of decisions and they lead. That's why they're in the C-suite, right?
right.
And it's really the same thing. That's what I'm hearing here.
Yeah. And then I would say tip number 3 is be willing to make a mistake. Because if you're not making mistakes, then you are not learning, right? If you're doing the same thing over and over again and it's coming out with no learning, then you're not trying hard enough. And so be willing to make a mistake allows you as a leader to actually tell those you're leading around you that mistakes are part of the process. If I am not willing to make a mistake, then those that follow me are also not willing to make mistakes. And if we're not willing to make mistakes, the alternative is when we make a mistake, we have to hide it. And that's where we get into trouble.
Well, that's a whole other thing. I think that slippery slope of ethics, of integrity. And it's like, if I made a mistake, where do you fess up, right? What's the line? If you made a mistake, like, oh, okay, you had a call scheduled for right now and you totally forgot it and blew it. And you said, well, like, oops, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it on my calendar or whatever. Like, oh, okay. Versus, yeah, we've got a financial meltdown here. Money was being funneled into something nefarious. We didn't realize, like, right, you've got, like, there's levels to it, but
right.
I think people will
well,
understand.
and so tip number 3 that like leads right into, like, I don't know if this is a tip, but it's really like holding yourself accountable when you do make those mistakes. Accept responsibility, hold yourself accountable, and the people that you are leading will follow that same pattern. They will hold accountability, they will accept responsibility, and as a organization, as a group, we will be better because of the mistakes, because of our willing to hold ourselves accountable, and because we're learning through the process.
Yeah, so I put down as tip number 4 because I think that's really important, right? I mean, it is about accountability. You have to be accountable to yourself and to those around you, that there are consequences for everything that you do or do not.
Right. And when you are leading, people are looking to you as the example. And if you're not willing to make mistakes, they're not going to make mistakes. If you're not willing to hold yourself accountable, they are not willing to hold themselves accountable. And then you just have you're going in this, that, and the other way, and you're not moving forward.
Nope. And you're pointing blame everywhere. It's Phil's fault.
Right. Of course. Right. And one of the hardest truths to learn is that when you make a mistake and you don't own it, the mistake eventually comes to surface. But by the time it comes to surface, nobody cares who did it except for one person. Me. I'm the only one that cares, and I can't unload that burden because nobody cares anymore. So it's really like an interesting thing where you think you're, keeping a secret and preventing yourself from this, tragedy of being found out, but in the end, you're the only one holding on to that secret, and the secret isn't important to anyone else but one person, and that is you.
Yeah, and that tip number 3, being willing to make mistakes. I mean, the conversation, either from parents, from teachers, for being excellent role models, to be
Yeah.
comfortable with it's okay to make mistakes, and then the culture within the classroom. I mean, putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
it's like piranhas sometimes, and
Yeah.
it's not a friendly environment, and
Oh,
it's
big teeth.
only if you're confident enough to be okay with mistakes, and that's where great leadership is sharing the tips that you're sharing,
Yeah.
and being okay with making mistakes, and then owning it up and moving on. It's like it's a lesson learned. You don't want to repeat your mistakes
No,
over and
no,
over
those are
again.
very different things.
Yes,
Yes.
excellent. Tip number
Yeah.
5.
So, tip number 5 is know your strengths, but also know the areas in which your challenges exist, because nobody is, I'm sorry, I hated to learn this news, but nobody is perfect. And so, if we are not aware of where our strengths and our challenges are, then we can't support ourselves. And you aren't going to bring somebody onto your team who has that strength that is your area of growth. Right. And so, and sometimes that can be, people can feel very
Threatened.
threatened, right? And so that again, it comes back to that being okay making mistakes, right? If I hire you, I bring you onto my team because you bring a better strength or you bring a different strength, we're actually going to rise higher together because of that, rather than bringing in everybody who is below me. Then I always look the best, but I'm not getting any better.
Yeah, surrounding yourself with experts, and then admittingly you're not an expert in everything. These are really valuable lessons to share with students and adults too. Adults still have those egos with,
Yeah.
you meet a doctor, you meet a lawyer, and it's just this one way. It seems that they're less open-minded to the variety of intellectual conversations about other options, and the mindset is what you're really describing,
Yeah.
to set them up for this level of understanding of what strong leadership is, and being comfortable and confident about honesty, transparency, accountability, and surrounding yourself and knowing your challenges and your weaknesses, to know that who are you getting this from, who are you going to get the support from,
Right.
because the person knows that they're strong in things, and so they're going to be able to confidently say, I wish I was strong in these other things, let me go
Right.
find somebody else.
Right, right. I feel like it's like fitting a puzzle together, right? Like I'm not, I can't, as one, I'm as one piece, I am not going to finish the puzzle. I have to bring other people to finish the puzzle in with their strengths.
Excellent.
All right. Tip number 6. This one is big. It's about being, it comes back to accountability, but it's about being vulnerable, being willing to do what you're asking other people to do, and evaluating self-reflection, really thinking about what your team has, what your choices have been made. So modeling vulnerability and self-reflection.
Excellent. Excellent.
And then my last tip is be willing to share it with others. Don't hold your knowledge to yourself. Don't think you are the best and always try and be the best.
We have some technical difficulties, so let's see what's happening here. Let's see if we can reconnect.
Okay.
There we go. A little bit of reconnection. Okay, so we had tip 6, being willing to do what others asked you to do, and then tip 7, Lorraine, you said was be willing to
Yeah.
share it with others.
And that, And that's the basis of my work at Peers Not Fears, is that I operate in a train the trainer model where the cohort of kids that I work with, whether it's at a school, an organization, or individual teens, my intent is the work that I am working on with them. They will then practice it with others who are doing the same kind of training eventually, and then take what they've learned and share it with others.
Excellent. And when you said it first, I thought that you meant willing to be shared with others, share the leadership with others, empower them as well.
Yes.
And that is something that is generally not looked upon as something that you're going to teach students, is to learn how to empower others. And that is another level of adults that need it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, if I describe to you the vision of valedictorian, right? So there is one spot at the top, and that when you have one spot at the top in any organization, you are the best, but you also have one other trait, and that trait is to keep everybody else out of that position. And that means you're not sharing, you're not investing in whatever organization you're leading, and that holds the organization back. It also holds you back and everybody else, but there's no win to having one person at the top.
And that's most business models.
It is.
It's just one person, like the president of the United States. It just seems to be the model of models.
Right. And when you have just one person at the top as the leader, nobody can make a decision without checking with them. And I always think about how slow that gums up the works for anybody, right? If there's only one person who can make all the decisions, that organization is not moving forward as quickly as it could.
No. And that's the thing. I think that that's part of what leadership is that you need to know where you're strong and in your lane, but recognize the people around you each have value to contribute. And if you can help empower them to do what they do, then and say, hey, it's okay to lead from the bottom or lead from the middle. Anybody can step up and be a leader. And when you've got everybody working together more effectively, it's not bad.
Yep. And it's the leadership to share that I'm not the decision maker. You have to talk to my marketing department manager or my HR manager or whoever's playing the role of sales people. Like, so whatever that those roles are, you're going to empower them with some level of decision making, because if one person's in charge of everything, we understand bottlenecks. We understand time delays.
We do. I've got a client that's in government, and you get bogged down in the whole decision-making wheel really quickly because everybody needs to make a decision. And then you just, they're not available today. They're gone this week. They're like, then there's no decisions made. 3 months goes by and you're like, okay. It's too late. Has that opportunity closed?
Yes.
And next time we'll talk about CYA.
Get it. That's a different thing. So with that, I think we want to thank Lorraine Connell here. Here's Not Fears, and you can see her link. You can point down below there, Lorraine, so we can get people looking at your website. We got to click. See right there. She's got it. See it right here. And Lorraine's been a terrific supporter, Helpopedia, got lots of folks that she can support, getting you as the parents and your kiddos through this, because it's a lot of difficulty and uncertainty and all that kind of good stuff there. And as far as Phil and I, we thank you for having an amazing second season. But before we go, actually, we've got one thing. We've got to talk about Lorraine's got a really important event. Thank you, Phil. August 21st coming up.
Yeah,
Lorraine, what do you got?
I'm hosting a webinar workshop for parents of high school students who are looking to know how to help their kids develop leadership. And I'm going to call it How Leadership is Your Teen's Secret Aid. Secret edge, secret edge. I was like, where did I go with that for a minute? And it will be recorded. It will be shared out so that you can watch it later. But understand that like colleges are not looking for grades only. They're looking for all the different things, and leadership is one of those secret things that not a lot of people know until they're filling out their college application, that their teens needed to do leadership. And I want to empower parents to know that their kids are doing leadership. We just have to find where they're doing leadership and elevate it. It's not too late.
So for
Excellent. So August 21st, sorry, Phil, go ahead. So you can go on your website, which is here, Peers Not Fears, to learn about the event on August 21st and sign up for it. It is free and people can learn a ton about leadership and the need for next steps after high school.
Yep. So Lorraine has a great program. So for those superintendents and principals that are listening, this is the edge that you can have with your school system if leadership is part of your repertoire and giving the students opportunities. So with Lorraine's help, you guys, the public school, whoever takes that on, is going to have a huge advantage in their success of life. It's really an important skill. So thank you, Lorraine.
Thanks.
All right. With that, Lorraine Connell, Peers Not Fears over there.com. You can find her. And that is a wrap. Season 2 Help Talk. We had 30 some guests on this year, which is great. Actually 32 guests on in this season. So that was incredible. Phil and I are going to take a little break over the summer, but we'll come back here and there, a little Jersey Shore action or something, I don't know. And we'll do that. And we're going to regroup and resume season 3 in the middle of September. So with that, on behalf of all of our guests, thank you so much for sharing your time, your lessons, your tips, and just great advice to help our youth and those who educate them and care for them. Phil, anything to add as we wrap up?
And we look forward to our September Help Talk. We'll start with a new season, and very excited to continue the journey of sharing knowledge and wisdom to the school systems, to our youth, to our parents, to really help them prepare for success.
Excellent. And if you're like Lorraine and you've got some expertise you want to share, DM us and we'll get on the show for September. All right. Everyone have a safe and happy summer. And thank you again.